Let's turn to the UK now, where it took a court to rule that a woman is a biological female. I mean, can you believe it? A court actually had to rule that a bloke who puts on a dress and a wig is not a woman. But yet, here we are in 2025. And here was part of that judgment being handed down.
The unanimous decision of this court is that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex.
There were celebratory scenes of jubilation after that result came through. Chief among them was J.K. Rowling. She said, quote, "It took three extraordinary, tenacious Scottish women with an army behind them to get this case heard by the Supreme Court. And in winning, they've protected the rights of women and girls across the UK." Joining me now to discuss this is Tom Slater, editor of Spiked Online. Tom, thank you for joining me. What's been the reaction to the judgment over there?
Oh, it's been jubilation, certainly from a lot of the gender-critical feminists and gay rights campaigners who I've been speaking to. I mean, it really does feel like a tremendous seismic moment. As you were alluding to in your introduction there, it is absurd that we ever had to be in a position where a court had to declare that women actually exist. But as we all know, in all of our Western societies, we've been taken down this rabbit hole for so long. Many of the people that you can see celebrating on the screen there have been fighting a very courageous but lonely battle, in some cases for more than 20 years now. And I'm frankly in awe at how much they've achieved, considering what they've been up against. They fought this at the grassroots, they fought this in the courts, they fought this in the court of public opinion. And this feels like, whilst one wouldn't want to declare victory too quickly, they're a lot closer to winning on this issue of common sense and biological sex than they were 24 hours ago.
Well, you know, it's just been an extraordinary erasure of women, and this is part of the problem here. But you know, you've got your Foreign Secretary over there, David Lammy, who once said that men can grow a cervix. For goodness sake. Keir Starmer saying it's not right to say that only women have a cervix. What sort of woke nonsense are they talking about?
It's incredible. The Labour Party really drank the trans Kool-Aid on this front. I mean, Keir Starmer eventually came to this very torturous position, which is that, you know, most women don't have a penis. 99.9% probably not, but there is still 1 in 1,000. You think, where did you get to this particular position? It's interesting now, the Labour Party, now in government, previously in opposition, are having to kind of pretend that they were always on board with this to begin with. Their equalities spokesperson saying that we recognise the ruling, we've always supported protections on the basis of sex and sex-based rights. It's all we were always at war with East Asia. But I think it shows how much of this was really propelled, not necessarily by people in the Labour Party or people in government being true believers, although there are some of those. They were all running scared of this ideology, and hopefully this ruling, even if it's a bit cowardly, even if it's a bit of a reverse ferret, will just give them cover to admit what they all knew to begin with, which is that there are two sexes, and that's fundamentally important if you want to protect women's rights.
I mean, who would have thought basic biology? Yet again, here we are. What sort of an impact do you think this is now going to have to female sports and female-only spaces, do you think? Has this changed the game?
No, absolutely. If you go through the judgment itself, it makes clear that there are going to be knock-on effects here. We've already seen, actually, some organisations announce kind of plans to pursue, for instance, the NHS, if it doesn't change its guidance, which primarily works on the basis of self-identification as well as gender recognition certification. We've had the British Transport Police, which has already announced that as an interim measure, it's going to ban trans-identified police officers from searching women. This has to happen purely on the basis of biological sex, as it always should have been. So there's going to be fights to come. But the nature of this ruling, the precedent that it sets down, the fact that this is the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, it's going to have legal ramifications, but I think also cultural and political ramifications. It's suddenly become a lot more acceptable to say what has been obvious to all of us to begin with, and that's a tremendous victory in and of its own self, I think.
Absolutely. And look, I wish that here in Australia we would be following suit, but we're certainly a long way behind. Now look, I want to get your take on reports that the Ministry of Defence over there may have banned electric vehicles with Chinese parts from parking within 2 miles of military sites due to safety concerns, Tom. Apparently staff at an RAF in Cambridgeshire must park those EVs outside. Explain what's going on here.
This is really striking. So this report from GB News over here talking about how specifically at RAF Witton in Cambridgeshire, which includes this site called the Pathfinder building, which is believed to kind of house one of the world's largest spy facilities, the sort of thing you wouldn't want potentially hostile foreign actors to be anywhere near, that they have put these restrictions in. It's not at all RAF or military sites by any stretch of the imagination, but does reflect a growing nervousness on the part of the state, on the part of the government, about potential room for espionage. But, you know, the Labour government have a very muddled position on this. On the one hand, they're trying to hug China quite close. There's even talk of them approving this super embassy that the Chinese Communist Party want to put in the middle of central London, which was blocked by the last Conservative government for fear it would be a place for, you know, espionage and for secret police forces and so on to operate from. And yet you can still see that the kind of information that they're getting, the kind of advice that they're getting from their security services and from their military chiefs, is that they need to be a lot more cautious. So maybe this is the beginning of a more cautious approach than we've seen so far from them.
Yeah, I mean, and you can understand why they're certainly doing this. You just don't know. But it says a lot about electric vehicles as well, I've got to say. Tom Slater, it's nice to catch up with you. Thank you so much for joining me on the show this evening.